What's happening YouTube? PokePhD here. Just a quick update from me in regards to the Ludkins collectibles, the ongoing scandal that they've had in regards to the PSA middleman orders that they were responsible for. I made a couple of videos before, just kind of, updating people, myself included, and kind of just figuring out what's going on. And so a few things happened recently where there were some updates, of course, so I'm just going to quickly go through those. So basically what happened was, so over the last probably 6 months, I believe now, probably since around the beginning of the year, PSA at that point had taken responsibility for those submissions that were sent via Ludkins over the previous couple of years, the ones that weren't paid for by Ludkins themselves. Effectively, they obviously just kind of ran off with everyone's money, myself included. And so at this point now, PSA are at least responsible for those graded cards. They actually took Ludkins to court and then were able to, obviously I don't know the ins and outs of the case to that extent, but they were able to kind of take responsibility and ownership, I guess, for those. And now over the last 6 months, they've been distributing the cards back to the actual original submitters that used Ludkins as the middleman, right? So what's actually been happening over the last 6 months is that a store, at least for those based in the UK, a store called Dan's Pokestop. So you can find them on Instagram, I believe. I'm not sure about the website, but you can certainly find them on Instagram at Dan's Pokestop. And they've actually been given the responsibility of handing out these orders back to the original submitter. So I believe, I guess, at that time 6 months ago, they were would have received parcels, many, I imagine, or maybe it's been sporadic throughout that time, but they would have received those parcels from PSA, and they've been slowly returning those submissions to their rightful owners and undoing the kind of dirty work that Barney Ludkins himself had actually done before then. So if you're like myself, you're still waiting. Well, I wouldn't recommend really doing anything other than, if you wanted to, reaching out to Dan's Pokestop, but I did something similar a few months back. I messaged them privately on Instagram and just asked them what was going on, and they basically said there's not really much they can do. They're working through it. They said they were ahead of schedule at the time, and I kind of just took their word for it. But they're still kind of working through that backlog of orders that they need to return. And of course, I don't know the exact details and relationship that they have with PSA, but I'm sure, you know, they're not doing this completely out of the goodness of their hearts. I mean, you never know. I'd be surprised personally, not because I know them and I know what Dan and whoever else is in charge there is particularly like. I just wouldn't expect it. You know, they could surprise you, but I assume there's some kind of deal there with PSA, and PSA have given them a kind of rough time frame that they have to work with. But I've been assured a couple of times now, basically, that they are slowly returning those parcels and those orders to the owners, the original submitters, and it's basically at this point just a matter of time, just to wait and see well, basically when you receive the email or whatever correspondence you receive from them, make sure you are aware that obviously that's going to come from them. Obviously it's a reliable person, as far as we're aware, and obviously reach out and ensure that your parcels, your cards do get returned to you. The kind of reason why I wanted to bring this up again was I did see quite a few people over the last few months, particularly just posting on Instagram, saying that they have actually received their submissions. Obviously this long debacle that's lasted a couple of years, they managed to finally get to an end of that, and it's obviously been a good thing. A couple of people posted and I would reply saying, hey, that's really fantastic. And it's kind of like, oh, maybe hopefully I'm going to be next, or I'm going to hear back at some point, just because there are a few cards there that I'm really, well, I'd say I'm excited to get them back, but it's been such a long time now. I'm just kind of waiting for them to get back, regardless of whatever grade and however they return to me. And I think, kind of just to maybe wrap this video up a little bit, what I wanted to say at this point is I still see a lot of middleman options, and at the end of the day, they do a service that is useful to a lot of people. But for me, probably the last time I ever that would, and this was nearly 2 years ago now, right? But this is probably, or that was probably the last time I'd ever use a middleman, and since then I pretty much submitted directly myself to PSA and have had 0 issues. And again, this is someone that's not based in the US, submitting internationally and then getting the returns and talking about all the taxes and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, it's been pretty smooth. The kind of only small issue I run into is when I'm actually exporting out the UK. Is kind of the cost of the insurance of getting things delivered to PSA in California, and alongside that, some I believe it is USPS, not USPS. I think either DHL or UPS don't in fact actually deliver to the PO box address, but then PSA do have an alternative address that's not a PO box, so you can kind of get around that. There's a couple of things that I had to work out once I kind of started resubmitting directly with PSA. And as I said, once those things are kind of figured out, I have made a video before, I believe, on my channel where I've gone into a bit more detail. Once you've kind of figured those out, it's pretty smooth sailing and just getting used to packing and filling out obviously the submission and packing it and all that kind of stuff as well. And yeah, at this point I don't ever see myself going back to using a middleman, regardless, as I said. So for some people it's a service that they're happy to pay for, but I would think, you know, if you're basically typing in the cards and the amount and the insurance value, you may as well just send it to them directly yourself. And you know, any issues that might arise from that, you can deal with PSA directly, and they seem to be reasonably quick as well to respond to correspondence. And yeah, I certainly had a better experience dealing with them directly, although I didn't have too many middleman issues up until that Ludkins issue. But again, it was such a big issue for a lot of people that it really kind of tars the experience. So yeah, that was just wanted to give kind of a bit of a summary, I guess, of my thoughts towards that. And to those who are still considering middleman grading, I know there's a few out there now, particularly in the UK, PSA, BGS, there's Black Label, they're not called Black Label grading, actually they might be, who do BGS, and kind of only seen good things from them, to be fair. I think Dan's Pokestuff actually does CGC now as well, and there's, you know, there's a few others, but for me, not really a service that I'm going to look to use, and probably not one I would recommend. But again, if you've had good experiences and you trust that particular middleman, you know, you've not had any issues, go ahead, I guess. But no, just my opinions and thoughts on that. If you enjoyed the video and got hopefully benefited in some way, please leave a like. If you've got anything you want to discuss in the comments down below, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and I'm happy to do exactly that. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next one.